Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is well, to cut through the noise of what has become one of the most visible yet, let's be honest, morally questionable entertainment genres of the last 2 decades, reality television.
Yeah, and we're going beyond the usual gossip here. We're really looking at this industry as a genuine economic, legal, and psychological battleground.
Absolutely. We've assembled a comprehensive stack of sources that, treat this phenomenon with the seriousness it really deserves. We're examining that high-stakes trade-off between visibility and vulnerability in our modern attention economy.
And this isn't just about celebrity mishaps. I mean, that's part of it, but it's really about the fundamental cost of seeking fame or even just a platform in the 21st century.
Precisely. Our source material falls into three major, and I think you'll see, overlapping areas. First, we're going to examine the careers that reality TV has just completely destroyed.
And that illustrates the brutal nature of public perception.
Then second, we're going to dive deep into the hidden psychological and labor costs for the people on screen. We're talking about manipulation, the failures of aftercare. It's pretty grim stuff.
It is. And third, and this is critical, we explore the surprising costs to you, the viewer at home, alongside the intense legal and ethical scrutiny the industry is now facing.
Right, from labor rights for contestants all the way to the emerging challenge of AI replicas. It's a huge landscape.
So our goal throughout this deep dive is to guide you, our listener, through the hidden and often immense costs that are associated with the entertainment we all consume.
We want to understand not just what happens on screen, but what happens behind the participant agreements and inside those edit suite doors.
That's where the real story is.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately, because when we talk about reality TV, we are talking about a powerful, double-edged force. It can be a launch pad, it can offer a second act, a chance for renewal, or a much-needed promotion. That's the appeal,
Yes,
right?
it's a dream, yes.
But here's the hook, the duality we have to consider. Reality television has the power to end a career just as much as it has the ability to spark a comeback.
It's a complete career gamble.
It's a total gamble, where public perception holds all the power and the risk management for the people involved is virtually non-existent.
When we examine this volatile phenomenon, you have to recognize reality TV's crucial role within what academics often term the fame cycle.
The fame cycle.
Yes, and it's a dynamic that producers exploit brilliantly. This genre, particularly those competitive celebrity versions like Celebrity Big Brother or I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, appeals to stars at vastly different points in their trajectory.
So it's not just a grab bag of famous people. It's a deliberate, calculated mixing of status levels, which, creates this built-in friction and aspiration right within the cast.
Precisely. We can categorize them across this fame hierarchy. So at the very bottom, you have what they call pre-celebrities.
So ordinary people, basically.
Ordinary people hoping their moment will launch them into something permanent. Then you've got proto-celebrities. These are people on the fringes, maybe known from a very specific niche or through association, and they're looking to expand their fame.
Right, to break into the mainstream. Then you have the established celebrities who are there for a very specific reason.
Yeah, they're using the show for immediate promotion, a book launch, a new album, or they're there to remake a tarnished image.
And finally, and this is maybe the most tragic for our purposes here, are those in the post-celebrity state.
The ones looking for career renewal after a long absence or a major slump in their career.
So a successful reality show cast isn't just about recognizable faces.
No, not at all. It's about combining celebrities across this entire fame hierarchy to ensure maximum friction. The key attraction for you, the audience, lies in watching the interactions, the power shifts, and, well, the inevitable debates about fame and hierarchy that come up.
The audience is constantly judging where each person belongs on that ladder.
Exactly. And this is where the risk becomes immense. Because while the system is designed for potential renewal, the transparency that reality TV demands exposes the celebrity's genuine character.
Or at least the producer's edited, narrative-driven version of it.
Yes. In a way that traditional acting or singing careers never would. That highly sought-after authenticity can become a devastating liability when the real person is perceived as flawed, immoral, or worst of all, fake.
Let's look at some specific, just catastrophic examples from the source material. These really illustrate how a single televised moment can annihilate a career. And we have to start with arguably the most infamous recent case in the UK, Roxanne Pallett on Celebrity Big Brother in 2018.
The details of this event are just crucial to understanding the speed of the fallout. So Pallet, a former soap opera star from Emmerdale, accused a fellow contestant, Ryan Thomas, of maliciously assaulting her.
Right, after what the footage clearly showed was a lighthearted, playful series of mock punches. It was not an attack.
Not at all. And the immediate, intense consequences were a perfect storm of public outrage and trial by media. Pallet's tearful accusation was broadcast.
But then the unedited footage came out, and it completely contradicted her emotional response. She eventually withdrew the accusation, she apologized, said she got it wrong, and had overreacted.
But by then, it was just far too late. Public outrage was immediate, and it was total. Thousands of complaints. I mean, an unprecedented volume poured into Ofcom, the UK regulator.
And the source material notes she was labeled one of the most hated women in the country. Her career just imploded overnight.
Completely. She quit her role as a British radio host. She retreated entirely from public life, moved to the US. She's been largely absent from television since 2018.
It just demonstrates how quickly a beloved personality can be rendered completely unmarketable by a single perceived moral failure.
And the key takeaway here is that if that authenticity conflicts with the public's idealized or even moralized image of a celebrity, the lie is often safer than the exposed truth.
Her overreaction was seen by the public, not as a moment of panic, but as a deliberate attempt to malign a co-star for drama.
A crime deemed unforgivable.
Next, we have the case of Mark Bannerman on I'm a Celebrity. Get Me Out of Here, where the career destruction came from personal infidelity made public on just a colossal scale.
Yeah. Bannerman, known for the soap opera EastEnders, he was isolated in the jungle for weeks. And during his time there, he publicly flirted with and announced romantic feelings for a fellow contestant, Cirrus Matthews.
Which would be typical reality show drama,
Except he was in a committed relationship with actress Sarah Matravers back home, and she was watching.
And the viewers were the ultimate jury. They reacted with immediate moral condemnation and voted him off the show at the first chance they got.
He knew it too. Bannerman admitted his behavior was unacceptable, saying, "I'm a rat. I can't look for a scapegoat."
But the personal confession wasn't enough to save his brand, was it?
Not even close. The source notes that his reputation failed to recover, limiting his appeal to TV executives who found him too toxic for any subsequent career renewal efforts. The show was supposed to give him a second act.
And instead, it permanently defined him by that one moment of betrayal.
And sometimes the cancellation comes not from personal drama or accusation, but from revealing deeply prejudiced or inappropriate beliefs that just shock the public conscience.
Which brings us to Christopher Biggins, a well-known and what people thought was a harmless British entertainer for decades.
Biggins was removed from Celebrity Big Brother after making ill-judged and inappropriate remarks that crossed a very serious line. This included discriminatory statements about bisexual individuals.
And then he made an anti-Semitic joke about the Holocaust.
Producers removed him immediately, stating the comments were capable of causing great offense. And following that controversy, Biggins found his work just dried up.
That fact is presented so flatly in the sources, but the implication is incredibly powerful. A lifetime entertainer, a recognizable public figure, was instantly canceled.
And while he partially attributed a lack of screen activity to advancing age, the timing strongly suggests the scandal was the primary and instant limiting factor on his marketability.
So those are examples of a single shocking event: a false accusation, infidelity, offensive speech, immediate terminal reputational harm.
But sometimes the slow drip of perceived character flaws through a docusoap format can be just as damaging. It just erodes public goodwill over time.
And that brings us to the docusoap format, exemplified by Tori Spelling and Jessica Simpson. They gave the audience unparalleled access.
And the audience used that access to judge them and judge them harshly.
Tori Spelling's reality show, True Tori, which aired for 2 seasons, provided just a devastatingly transparent look into her private life.
It laid everything bare. Her marital problems, including her husband Dean McDermott admitting to an affair, documented drug addiction issues, and persistent financial messes that plagued them throughout the show's run.
And the outcome was that this chaotic portrayal of her life effectively limited her appeal moving forward. The constant state of crisis documented on screen became her primary star image.
It wasn't a brand that TV executives found appealing for stable future projects. It locked her into a loop of having to exploit her own chaos just to stay relevant.
In Jessica Simpson's experience on Newlyweds, Nick and Jessica shows that a perceived lack of intelligence can be just as fatal to an image as moral failings.
Oh, absolutely. The singer developed a public image due to a habit of frequently saying silly things, most famously confusing chicken and tuna, asking if the canned tuna she was eating was, in fact, chicken.
That moment followed her for years. It led viewers to believe she genuinely lacked intelligence, and that negatively affected her public image and her subsequent music and acting career.
What's critical here is the supreme irony. Simpson's business side flourished massively. Her fashion line, the Jessica Simpson collection, went on to earn over $1 billion in revenue.
So she clearly had robust business acumen.
Absolutely. Yet the public perception, defined by the reality TV character, the ditzy blonde, stuck and damaged her artistic pursuits.
This is the danger zone. They sought authenticity. But when the real self conflicts with the desired star image, whether that image is talented or intelligent or morally sound,
Authenticity becomes the single biggest liability. The star image is destroyed, and with it, their marketability in the entertainment industry.
the destruction of the individual star is one side of the coin. Now, we need to shift our perspective dramatically, moving from the celebrity outcomes to the ethical mechanisms underpinning the industry itself.
Right. The moral scrutiny applied by critics, academics, and, crucially, by former workers, has led to the academic concept of reality TV production being defined as dirty work.
That is a powerful and very intentional label.
It is. The designation of dirty work implies moral contamination. It stems from the moral concerns that the entire genre is fundamentally exploitative, harmful, and, often fake.
So as a result, the workers, the producers, editors, the crew, are seen as morally tainted or having questionable character by the outside world, and often by themselves.
And these workers face three core ethical dilemmas in the production process, all of which compromise their professional integrity.
Okay, what are they?
First, creating negative representations or stereotypes. Second, falsifying reality through manipulation or editing. And third, the internal exploitation of workers, like unpaid interns, which mirrors the exploitation of the on-screen talent.
And the workers themselves, the producers, are often placed in an ethical bind. They might start with aspirations to create genuinely engaging or authentic television,
But the commercial demands from the networks, the need for high ratings, viral moments, and cheap-to-produce drama pressure them into compromising their ethical values daily.
So, if the work is morally compromising, why don't they just quit? Is the money just too good, or is there a specific industry pressure that keeps them there?
It's a combination. It's the constant pressure of a freelance industry combined with a powerful rationalization mechanism. Workers justify these creative compromises through, everyday shop floor talk,
How so?
either by distancing themselves from their morally compromising actions, saying it's just a job, or by tweaking their standards of quality, arguing that the manipulation is necessary for good storytelling.
But fundamentally, the commercial goal is paramount.
Yeah.
Maximizing viewership and drama, regardless of the human cost.
Exactly. Let's delve into how this drama is manufactured because it moves beyond clever editing and into outright psychological manipulation. And that often begins with extreme isolation tactics.
Oh.
From the moment participants arrive on a set, especially for dating or competitive elimination shows, production assumes total, deliberate control over their environment to maximize stress and vulnerability.
They use these calculated isolation tactics. Participants' personal possessions are systematically removed. Cell phones, wallets, passports, credit cards, cash, all of it is taken.
They are deliberately left with nothing to distract them. The idea is to drive them into a growing state of emotional tension that is ripe for exploitation.
And former producers noted that the idea is to keep people in a box all day long for days on end, so they are forced to create their own drama and emotional volatility.
The producers don't have to fabricate the emotions. They just have to create the highly controlled environment where emotions run hot and unfiltered, often leading to mental exhaustion.
This brings the role of the producer into sharp, very uncomfortable relief.
One industry professional described the job of a producer on a reality dating show as inherently corrupt, noting the objective is often quite openly to make people cry or push them toward dramatic confrontation.
That is an astonishing level of cynical manipulation. The sources point out that there are professionals in the industry who actively refuse to work on dating shows entirely.
Because they find them unjustifiable. Due to the moral quandary of manipulating people into falling in love, being rejected, and then being heartbroken publicly, all for a rating spike.
We see this acute psychological pressure really clearly in the use of talking head interviews, which are often used to undermine a participant's own sense of reality.
Yes, take the documented story of Danielle Rule from Love is Blind.
Rule described how producers repeatedly asked her, in these private confessional interviews, if she felt deserving of my love in reference to her partner.
She was confident at first, but the constant daily repetition of this invasive question eventually broke down her self-perception.
She started asking herself, why are they asking me this over and over again? Am I worthy? Did my partner say something to them that I don't know about?
It's textbook psychological manipulation. The repetition introduces doubt where none existed, ensuring the participant arrives at the emotional state the producers need for the narrative.
And the manipulation didn't stop with the questioning. Rule suffered a severe panic attack during filming in Mexico.
And the show's editors then actively constructed a false narrative, editing the footage to make it appear that the breakdown was related to her partner going to a party without her, rather than the severe and protracted psychological pressure she was under.
So producers prompt contestants with specific storylines in these interviews, potentially gaslighting them into misremembering events that happened weeks ago, only to construct a compelling but ultimately false narrative in the edit.
The emotional trauma is manufactured in the room, but the narrative fraud is completed in the edit suite. This reliance on editing is key.
So what are the tactics? What do they do beyond cutting conversations to control the final output?
Well, editors can force a narrative by cutting together completely different conversations from different days, or by trimming footage for suspense. They also use seemingly trivial technical means to obfuscate cuts and continuity issues.
For example,
For example, producers sometimes require cast members to drink from opaque cups during conversations.
that's fascinating. But why opaque cups? What does that do?
It's simple, but highly effective. It prevents you, the audience, from tracking the volume of liquid in the cup. If the cast member is drinking from a clear glass and the water level suddenly drops drastically between cuts, you instantly register a jump in time or a splice in the conversation.
But with an opaque cup.
The editor can cut together hours of footage and conversations, even from different days, forcing a new narrative without the viewer's eye detecting a continuity error. They exploit the viewer's trust in their own senses to manufacture the drama.
And that cycle of manipulation and subsequent public dismissal leads directly to the crisis in aftercare and support.
Right, because audiences see the final, constructed product with their own eyes, they tend to believe they fully understand the situation. When cast members claim they were misrepresented or manipulated, viewers often dismiss them.
The old you get what you sign up for attitude.
Exactly. Legally, broadcasters and production companies have a significant duty of care, an obligation to take reasonable steps to protect participants from foreseeable harm, whether that's physical, emotional, or reputational.
And signing a waiver, the infamous participant agreement, does not completely absolve them of this legal duty.
But the provision of psychological support is frequently described by participants as merely a box-ticking exercise conducted before filming begins.
There's a fundamental flaw in the industry's approach. Companies assume that once a contestant leaves the studio, they are no longer a concern.
But the aftercare is needed most after the show airs, often months later. That's when participants are thrust back into the world, dealing with intense, adverse media scrutiny, hateful online commentary, and the sudden realization that their brief period of public profile is already waning.
Contestants are frequently dropped at the first available opportunity, once their maximum ratings potential has been achieved.
And what stands out as the most chilling aspect of this section is the documented abuse of the psychological screening process itself. The psych testing, which is often touted as the industry's gold standard for contributor protection.
It's a complete reversal of protection. You're talking about instances of reverse psych testing.
That phrase itself is horrifying.
Are we talking about actively selecting people because they're fragile?
Precisely. Producers described the process being abused to manipulate contributors' on-screen reactions rather than protecting them. Instead of filtering out fragile individuals, the psych reports, which detail vulnerabilities, anxieties, and personality traits, were mined by producers to select people who would guarantee conflict and high drama.
So they are actively seeking out underlying instabilities.
Yes, they look specifically for individuals displaying high narcissism, extreme extroversion, and risk-taking behavior, as these traits are prone to explosive conflict.
And this selection occurred even when psychologists explicitly advised against casting them, due to the predictable negative consequences on their mental health.
Yeah, and the sources document instances that are truly alarming, including cases where production leadership pressured psychologists to doctor their reports, or where individuals who were explicitly recommended to be barred from the show were cast anyway.
And it led, predictably, to negative outcomes for the contributor. The drive for drama superseded the duty of care.
This culture of exploitation has severe human consequences, and it's important to see the long-term impact on a participant's identity. We can look to Anthony Hutton, the winner of Big Brother back in 2005.
Hutton won instant, intense fame, including securing £250,000 through a magazine deal the day after his victory. It was the peak of the reality TV boom.
But his time in the limelight was short-lived. He described the period after the show as a difficult, fast-moving roller coaster. The sudden lifestyle of excess, combined with the crushing realization that he was no longer Anthony off Big Brother, led him into a dark state of mind.
The sources stress this feeling of being hung out to dry after an intense period of publicity, especially for those who lack alternative support mechanisms.
And it's humbling that a Big Brother winner had to reinvent himself as a barber to find stability. That really drives home the volatility, doesn't it?
It really does. He successfully pivoted away from the excess and found stability in the hair industry, opening Mr. Hutton's bar and barbershop.
And significantly, he has leveraged his difficult experience to help others. He now runs the Never Throw in the Towel Project, an initiative that uses outdoor activity and cold water therapy to help men struggling with their mental health.
His story perfectly highlights the painful roller coaster many participants endure and the critical need for mental health support that extends far beyond the moment the cameras stop rolling.
We've focused heavily on the moral cost to the creators and the exploited labor on screen. Now let's flip the lens and look at the cost to the consumer, you, the viewer.
Specifically regarding modern viewing habits and the mental health risks associated with them. This is where the sheer volume of content, much of it reality TV and docusoaps, changes the viewing dynamic entirely.
And that change is defined by the rise of binge watching, which refers to watching several episodes of a series, at least 2, but usually more, in rapid succession.
And the data shows approximately 70% of surveyed U.S. TV viewers engage in this behavior, averaging 5 episodes per session when they do.
And this isn't just a benign leisure activity. Academics are treating it as an emergent problem. They're proposing that the symptoms of problematic binge watching meet the diagnostic criteria for addictive behavior.
That theory is based on Griffith's well-known 6-component addiction model, which applies to behavioral addictions like gambling or internet use.
Right. So let's break down those 6 components that problematic binge watching is seen to satisfy.
Okay, first, there's salience. This means the activity becomes the single most important thing in the person's life, dominating their thoughts and actions.
Second is mood modification. So binge watching is used as a reliable way to change your emotional state, maybe to feel excitement or relief from stress.
Third, tolerance. Over time, you need to increase the amount of the activity watching more episodes for longer sessions to achieve the same mood modification effect.
Fourth is withdrawal. When the activity is suddenly stopped or curtailed, the individual experiences unpleasant feelings like irritability, anxiety, or restlessness.
Fifth, conflict. The behavior starts to interfere with other, more important aspects of life, such as relationships, work, hobbies, or education.
And finally, sixth, relapse. After trying to stop or reduce the activity, the individual returns to the problematic pattern. These 6 components together define an addiction.
To empirically test the association between problematic viewing and mental health risks, a 2018 cross-sectional study was conducted on 1,488 adults in Taiwan.
And they utilized the Problematic Series Watching Scale, or PSWS, which measures behavior based on that 6-component addiction model. What's fascinating here is the empirical link they found.
The study found a significant positive association between higher problematic binge-watching scores and 3 key mental health risks.
Yes, depression, social interaction, anxiety, and loneliness.
But for our listener who isn't a statistician, when we hear a Pearson of 0.23 for depression, what does that mean in plain English? Is that a weak link or a strong link?
That's an important question. The Pearson R value measures the strength and direction of a linear association. An R of 0.23 is generally considered a weak to moderate correlation. It doesn't mean that binge watching causes depression.
Right. It means that people who struggle with depression are more likely to also engage in problematic binge watching. the behaviors occur together.
Exactly. And the p-value being less than 0.001 is the critical part. That extremely small number tells us the association is highly significant statistically. It means there is less than a 0.1% chance that this observed correlation happened randomly.
It confirms that the link between these behaviors is real and merits serious attention.
So what does this all mean for the audience? Why is excessive problematic viewing linked to these negative mental health outcomes?
The prevailing theory is that binge watching often functions as an emotion-focused coping strategy.
It's an easy, highly accessible way to escape reality and avoid difficult or negative emotions. But in choosing this escape route, it decreases the likelihood that individuals will choose more adaptive coping methods.
Like problem solving, reaching out to a friend, or engaging in physical activity, it creates a potentially damaging feedback loop.
Precisely. For individuals struggling with depressive symptoms, particularly those with low self-regulation, binge watching becomes a primary distraction mechanism. This behavior is sometimes linked to a subjective perception of time passing slowly when depressed, making distraction, a rapid consumption of narrative, feel essential.
And the link to social interaction anxiety is particularly compelling, especially in the context of reality TV, which is inherently all about intense social dynamics and relationships.
It supports the idea that watching TV can serve as a potent means of relaxation for those affected by social anxiety. And crucially, watching TV and forming emotional attachments to the character.
Even if the characters are manufactured.
Right. It may serve as a substitute for real-life social interactions or relationships.
They are seeking a form of virtual social interaction through the screen, where there is zero risk of rejection or embarrassment.
That's the mechanism. For those who feel anxious about engaging in social situations in person, the screen provides a safe, controlled environment where they can still observe, process, and engage with social narratives without having to take the emotional risk.
And beyond the anxiety and depression links, reality TV has a direct and measurable impact on the viewer's self-image, especially body image.
Oh, definitely, which is constantly scrutinized in shows like Love Island.
Yes. A UK survey found that almost a quarter of young adults reported that shows like Love Island caused them to worry actively about their body image.
And that worry isn't trivial. These body image concerns are themselves associated with broader mental health problems like depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts in young people.
We are naturally drawn to making social comparisons, and certain reality shows deliberately heighten negative body comparisons by showcasing highly specific, often surgically enhanced or heavily filtered ideals.
And that contributes to poor self-esteem and mental health outcomes for the audience.
The cycle of exploitation on screen, combined with the resulting psychological fallout for both participants and viewers, has inevitably drawn severe regulatory and legal attention to the reality TV industry.
And it's forcing a reckoning with its foundational labor practices.
This takes us right back to that fundamental legal problem. Are the participants on these shows workers or not? The core issue is that many reality TV networks classify participants as independent contractors.
They sign a participant agreement with an appearance release that explicitly frames them as non-employees.
And this classification is a critical strategic move for the networks. It allows them to avoid the wage and hour standards mandated by the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA.
Things like minimum wage and overtime pay for participants who are sometimes working 20-hour days under intense, isolated conditions. They avoid benefits, safety standards, and collective bargaining rights.
But the courts don't rely solely on the contract label. They apply the economic realities test to determine the worker's true status.
And this is a highly fact-specific inquiry. It looks beyond the contract language to see who holds the true power and control.
The test essentially asks, does the person depend on the work for their livelihood? And is the work they are performing integral to the business?
The courts look at 5 key factors, but the most important one that weighs heavily in favor of participants being classified as employees is that their work is integral to the employer's business.
Let's elaborate on those 5 factors to give the listener the full scope of the legal argument. First, the degree of control the alleged employer has over the worker.
And we know reality producers exercise near total control.
Second, the worker's opportunity for profit or loss. For participants who are only paid a small stipend and have no claim to the show's massive revenue, this favors employee status.
Third, the investment in equipment and materials required by the worker. Participants invest nothing. Production invests everything. Fourth, the skill required for the work.
Many reality contestants are cast for their personality, not a highly specialized skill.
And fifth, the degree of permanence of the working relationship. And while many reality shows are short-term, the work is continuous for the duration of filming.
And crucially, that last factor is the work performed an integral part of the employer's business. Reality shows literally cannot exist without the participants. They are the product.
This legal vulnerability has led to significant real-world action. The National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB, issued a formal complaint in 2024 alleging that the producers of the hit show Love is Blind misclassified their contestants as participants instead of employees.
And that is a monumental step. Because if contestants are legally employees, it triggers a wide range of protections.
Including minimum wage guarantees, workplace safety standards, and, critically, the ability to organize collectively and demand fair contracts.
And this union push has gained high-profile advocates like Bethany Frankel and Nene Leakes, who are now advocating for reality stars to unionize, taking inspiration from successful organizations like SAG-AFTRA.
And the demands being floated are specific and financially significant. This isn't just about recognition, it's about shared prosperity. They're asking for $5,000 per episode minimum for unscripted shows that make it to air.
A minimum 10% raise each season for returning cast members, and a huge one, a share of the revenue when seasons are re-aired on streaming services.
Specifically, 10% of their last negotiated talent fee for the season being streamed. Frankel explicitly stated that the exploitation era is over.
She notes that networks have historically relied heavily on unscripted shows as cheap content, often using them to fill programming gaps during scripted labor strikes.
This reliance has created an environment where unscripted talent must now fight for recognition and fair compensation, especially as their likenesses continue to generate millions of dollars in residuals for the networks long after the show wraps.
That desire for control over one's own likeness or one's digital footprint extends far beyond the contract negotiation table.
As digital careers, influencer careers, and reality TV careers increasingly merge, so does the acute need for digital protections, particularly concerning the threat of AI replication.
This is a major area of new legislation in California, the home of Hollywood, which seeks to legally protect the performer's digital identity. These new laws, set to take effect starting January 1st, 2025, focus on legally defining and controlling the digital replica.
And that replica is defined specifically as a computer-generated, highly realistic electronic representation readily identifiable as the voice or visual likeness of an individual, where the actual individual did not perform the work or the performance was materially altered by technology.
It's designed to protect against deceptive advertising and deepfakes that threaten their livelihood.
There are two key pieces of legislation here. First, AB 2602 focuses on living performers. This law targets unconscionable contracts. It makes contractual provisions unenforceable if they permit the use of a digital replica as a substitute for work the individual would have otherwise performed.
Or if the intended uses are vague and open-ended.
Exactly, and that's critical. The contract is unenforceable unless the performer had independent legal counsel or union representation specifically addressing the use of digital replicas.
This fundamentally addresses the performer's chief concern, being replaced by their own likeness without fair compensation or informed consent. It forces the issue to the negotiation table.
Second, AB 1836 expands the postmortem right of publicity, focusing on deceased personalities. It makes it illegal to produce, distribute, or make available a digital replica of a deceased personality's voice or likeness in an expressive work without prior consent from their estate.
This is hugely significant. It controls how technology interacts with legacies. For example, if a company wanted to run a throwback campaign utilizing a digital replica to create a brand new performance by, say, Michael Jackson.
Not only would general consent for using his likeness be needed, but specific consent for the creation and use of that new digital replica performance. Violation of this law carries a hefty penalty, the greater of $10,000 or the actual damages suffered.
It's about establishing a financial disincentive against unauthorized digital resurrection.
And it's clear that in the attention economy, your personal data and digital image are commodities that require legal fortifications. And this push for control extends even to the viewer.
Right. California is simultaneously updating its privacy laws, the CCPA, effective January 1st, 2026, to give consumers far more control over their own data in the digital space.
These updates expand business obligations regarding consumer data, forcing greater transparency. For example, confirmation that an opt-out request has been processed is now mandatory. Businesses must display a message like, "Opt-out request honored."
More importantly, the updates tackle the subtle ways businesses manipulate consumer choices online, what they call dark patterns.
Yes. The updated regulations provide new, explicit examples of prohibited practices designed to exploit human psychology.
Prohibited dark patterns now include
Yeah.
requiring consumers to take more steps to opt out than were required to opt in.
Making the yes button visually more prominent than the no button through sizing, contrast, or color.
Treating the act of closing a pop-up without selection as tacit consent to data sharing.
Or creating a false sense of urgency to pressure consumers into quickly making a decision. These laws are finally catching up to digital design practices designed to trick the consumer into giving up their privacy.
Given the extreme volatility we've outlined, the risk of career destruction, the ethical exploitation of labor, and the constant legal battles over image rights, it makes absolute sense that many participants and creatives in the broader entertainment sector are seeking a way out.
Absolutely. The entire entertainment industry is going through a massive destabilizing transformation right now. The rise of streaming, major labor strikes, layoffs, and shrinking budgets.
Which leads to immense uncertainty, stress, and burnout for producers, artists, and performers.
And for those who are typically freelance or contract workers, the underlying pressure of the next paycheck is always present, creating a desperate incentive to stay in exploitative roles.
This instability, however, is being reframed by many as the ideal time for creatives to pivot into entrepreneurship.
Because if you've worked in the arts, if you've been a producer, if you know the hustle of reality TV, you already possess the transferable skills necessary to manage chaos and start your own venture.
The ultimate success story in turning reality fame into real leadership and entrepreneurial credibility is Bethany Frankel from The Real Housewives of New York.
She successfully leveraged her visibility platform into a massive business empire, including Skinny Girl and her rapid disaster relief philanthropy, Be Strong.
And Frankel had to actively fight against the persistent stereotype that reality TV stars are vapid or lack professional substance, a stereotype that Jessica Simpson also struggled with, remember?
She was an entrepreneur first, having several failed business attempts before finding the right formula that merged her authentic, unfiltered personality with a viable market product.
She made calculated, bold decisions. She used the reality show platform, RHONY, for marketing, turning viewers directly into customers for her low-calorie cocktail brand, Skinny Girl.
She was doing product placement, marketing, and market research all on the show. She built the business with minimal resources, relying heavily on organic marketing and personal branding.
And eventually sold the beverage segment for approximately $100 million. Her key move was recognizing a massive, unserved gap in the market for low-calorie alcohol and health-conscious lifestyle branding.
She created a new category entirely and disrupted the market. That kind of success showcased undeniable entrepreneurial leadership and vision.
But her pivot also demonstrates the unique challenges of leading in the limelight. Her brand is so intrinsically tied to her personality that she struggles with delegation, and her public conflicts with cast members have, at times, overshadowed her business acumen.
She lacks the luxury of making mistakes quietly, unlike a private CEO. Her successes and failures are always public content.
But her pivot is a powerful demonstration of how to harness skills honed in the chaotic environment of creative industries and apply them to business ownership.
You're already adaptable, you already know the hustle, and you have highly marketable skills that go beyond simple job titles. Things like complex project management, organizational prowess, sophisticated storytelling, pitching, negotiation.
And the ability to manage volatile relationships with networks, clients, and partners. These are robust, functional skills that translate directly into consulting, marketing, or building a bespoke business in any industry.
So for any creative listening who feels burned out or trapped by the system, whether you're a former reality contestant, a freelance producer, or a creative burned by layoffs, here are the 5 strategies for making that successful creative pivot.
Okay, number 1, start with curiosity. Explore interests outside your current industry. Reinvention doesn't need all the answers immediately. It just needs you to start asking questions about what truly lights you up.
Number 2, audit your skill set. Don't just list job titles like associate producer. List specific functional skills like managed a team of 5 people under tight deadlines, organized complex international travel, or produced compelling video pitches. This helps you figure out exactly how to serve different clients.
Number 3, leverage your network. You are starting from a position of experience, not from scratch. Reach out to people doing work you admire, whether they are still in the arts or have successfully pivoted outside of it.
Opportunities often come from people you know and who already trust your hustle and your reliability. Don't be shy about asking for advice, not just a job.
Number 4, start something now on the side. Make mini pivots before making a full leap. This could be freelance consulting in your strongest functional skill, starting a specialized blog, or taking on a short-term gig completely outside your field.
Experimenting on the side provides clarity and confidence before you commit fully, and it reduces the financial pressure of the main move.
And number 5, reframe the narrative. Leaving the arts or reality TV is not giving up on a dream. It's an act of power and control.
It's a chance for profound reinvention, setting up a second act on your own terms with more control, flexibility, and reduced exploitation. It allows you to be the one calling the shots instead of waiting for the volatile industry tides to turn. #outro.
To summarize the major insights from this incredibly dense deep dive, we've established 3 crucial takeaways about the modern media landscape and the cost of the attention economy.
First, reality TV functions as a double-edged sword within the fame cycle. While it can offer strategic renewal and massive financial upside, it carries the inherent immense risk of career destruction through public scandal.
And that's often when perceived authenticity, be it moral, intellectual, or emotional, clashes violently with the public's idealized star image.
Second, the production of reality TV is fundamentally rooted in exploitative labor practices. This includes severe psychological manipulation through isolation and gaslighting, the use of narrative fraud in the edit suite,
And the systematic abuse of psychological screening processes, often referred to as reverse psych testing, all designed to manufacture maximum predictable drama, resulting in profound failures of aftercare for vulnerable individuals.
And third, our digital life is precarious on both sides of the screen. Viewers face mental health risks tied to problematic binge watching used as an emotion-focused coping mechanism.
Simultaneously, on-screen talent is fighting for legal protections, demanding recognition as employees under the FLSA, and seeking regulatory control against the theft of their digital likenesses through emerging AI technology in California.
The legal and regulatory systems, from the NLRB to new AI legislation and updated privacy laws, are all scrambling to establish standards of dignity, consent, and fair compensation in an industry that has historically operated with a Wild West mentality.
Prioritizing profit over human safety.
We've seen the systems trying to fix the labor problem, the mental health problem, and the digital likeness problem. But the drive for maximum drama, as we discussed, comes down to one thing: viewer demand.
And here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the question we leave with you. The commercial incentives baked into reality production are inherently geared toward maximum emotional pressure on participants. They need confrontation, they need failure, they need humiliation for ratings.
We've defined that as schadenfreude, the pleasure derived from others' misfortune.
So if the demand for more drama is driven by our own collective appetite, is the only sustainable solution a fundamental shift in the viewer's desire, moving away from that craving for conflict?
What is the ethical cost we, the audience, are truly willing to accept for our entertainment?
Think about that the next time you press play.